As always, this is brought to you by Barbell Apparel, major sponsor of the channel. They've been awesome. We got new Bromley shirts out. They got a new design up. Never skip pain day, MFers. And of course, we got Bromley shorts, Bromley pants, and you can get non-Bromley monogram stuff, I guess, if you're a loser. Their pants are super comfortable. I could do a full CrossFit workout in their jeans if I ever had the itch to do so. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll do that. Let's see. If you got big dreams and bad jeans, then go to Barbell Apparel and get a shirt that says Big Dreams, Bad Jeans. Now on to the show. I'm Alex Bromley, and this is Stronger Man. I will be your strength Sherpa for this journey up Mount Swole. The topic at hand today, because World's Strongest Man did just happen this weekend, is every dumb thing about World's Strongest Man. Now, strongman is near and dear to my heart because I've invested so much time into it. I love the sport, but also we really like to abuse the things we love, and I love to rage over things in strongman that rub me the wrong way because that's what disgruntled fans do. Now, Worlds is dear to everybody's heart because it's the original. It started this. However, there's something about World's Strongest Man since I have been paying attention way back around the year 2000 that has just always kind of pissed me off. And it seems to get worse every year. So I'm just going to pee in everybody's Cheerios. Everybody's coming off the high of the weekend, and I'm here to just sour your fucking grapes. So take a seat, buckle in, I don't know, grab a drink or something. Let's get into it. We're going to cover Reno's big upset. If you hadn't heard, the people dedicated to terrorizing Mitch's comment section over last month had a ticker tape parade yesterday because Mitch ended up taking third place behind Tom Stoltman, and the winner is newcomer, brand new, from out of nowhere, Reno Nell from South Africa. And it all ties together, guys. It comes full circle. This is like Charlie Day with the map in the mailroom and all the points of yarn. Like, it's all connected. So let's get into it. Every dumb thing about World's Strongest Man. We're going to start with the low-hanging fruit first. Thing number one, it's corporate. It's not just kind of corporate. It is corporate as fuck. World's Strongest Man was started by David Webster and Dougie Edmonds, two Scots, and Edmonds was a discus and caber champion, and they started it to air on CBS in 1977. Now, I call World's Strongest Man an American property because it was made for a United States corporation, CBS. It's like our Channel 5 over in England. It's like a main broadcasting network that's just been around forever. It's a staple. And it was made for an American audience, and it was almost exclusively American participants. So yeah, two Scots put it together, and that culture is weaved in. But I mean, just look at the first one. They're in the shiny singlets, and they're at, where were they? Like, was it Universal Studios? I don't know. It was American as fuck. Now, over the years, it's changed hands. It's now gone like full stupid corporate, and it's just super easy to hate on it because of this fact. Every strongman fed, the big shows that pop up, from the Rogue Invitational, the Arnold Classic, what Shaw's doing, OSG, SCL, they're all going to have some type of formal business structure, but they're all like put together by strongman heads for strongman heads. This is like the conglomerate, soulless, get your lefty friends and Luigi Mangione because we're fighting systemic power type of corporate structure. That was a joke. Mangione isn't a hero, you fake revolutionary spoiled college lunatics. Now, World's Strongest Man is ran by IMG. It's a subsidiary of Endeavor, which is this huge conglomerate. Elon Musk was on the board for a time. It's worth billions of dollars. It right now has like 51% of TKO, which owns UFC and WWE. It's corporate as fuck, is the point that I'm trying to make to you right now. Mitch made several videos leading up to World's Strongest Man talking about this fact, the difficulty of getting simple shit done. He doesn't know who to talk to. There's multiple people making things complicated. You have to have a meeting over every little thing. It's just a horrible experience, and that type of shit bogs things down. It creates red tape, a bureaucracy, and it's guaranteed to have people making decisions that really have no business making decisions. So it's super easy to hate because of the fact that it is so corporate, and that's responsible for a lot of the shit that's going to come later on this list. Second, it's exploitative. Now, all strongman contests are a bit exploitative because the competitors are the consumers. It's a unique feature of the sport. It has not reached quite the level where advertising dollars can fund it because there's so many people watching it every time, like popular team sports are. This is a bottom-up system where the athletes, they are like the main attraction, but they're also the consumers. So because of that, you get some really weird shit, like going for a national or world title and having to pay thousands of dollars to travel, having to pay entry fees. I went to OSG this year. It was my second year, which is essentially World's Strongest Man for the women, for the weight classes, for the masters. And every year it's gone up. It started at like 150, which is actually like a normal regular contest event fee now, where it used to be like $30 when I started. And it went to over 200. And I think this last year, it was like right around $300 as an entry fee. They have several hundred people competing. So you can do the math on how much they bring in just from that, which, hey, it's expensive to run, understandable. But make no mistake about it. The pros, the high level people within each country have to pay a shit ton of money. Most of them are well in the hole by the time the entire competitive year is over. Now, it's bad enough when you go to some back alley show behind a fucking barbecue where there's like 15 people competing and it's 50 miles away from any airport, and somebody set up a little tarp over a like plastic table right in the gravel to like block people coming in, to make sure like your grandma and your kids give $15 each as a quote unquote spectator fee, even though it's decidedly not a spectator event. It exists literally to collect entry fees from the people. It's frustrating that they do that to you. But once you get to like pro status and you see that guys are overwhelmingly forking money out in order to stay in the game, and then they leech off the friends and family. Like, that's always rubbed me the wrong way. Now, again, it's worse because this is a soulless corporate entity. So you have a multi-billion-dollar subsidiary under this huge conglomerate. It used to be that they wouldn't even pay the athletes' way. I remember that was a big deal not that long ago in history. You'd have guys that would get short notice, like, oh, we need an alternate, fly out to fucking Zambia. And they'd have to pay it. It'd be on their own dime. I remember Mike Jenkins having to quit his job as a teacher because he got his invite. And it's like, hey, it's a long time in this random spot in the year. Everybody has day jobs. You better get the time off. And oh, by the way, there's no guarantee that you're even going to be better off for it financially. Now, Worlds does pay more now. It's $100,000 for first place. There's a total prize pack of $263 split over all 25 people. Last place gets around $1,000, and I guess they give $1,500 to everybody for travel expenses. So this is a big improvement. But even that $1,500 doesn't go a long way to international travel, especially when you're bringing other people, which everybody is. I would bet the bottom 5 to 10 guys are absolutely in the hole financially after this. Now, Hooper, hate him all you want, he did make a stink about this. And I can tell you from all my time in here, there's a weird thing about strongman where it does get very culty. People make fun of CrossFit for being culty. Guys, look in the mirror. Jesus Christ. Pot, meat, kettle. The people that get into strongman have this weird idolatry of everything in the sport, from the people that run events, the events themselves. They do not think clearly or objectively, and they certainly don't treat themselves as consumers with the same expectations you would have anywhere else where you are paying money. So you'll have some really unacceptable things that happen where more stress and pressure is put on the athlete. You need to have a show in the first place, and nobody speaks up because they're afraid of not getting an invite, of not networking, of pissing off the wrong people. Pro Strongman is not a clean bracket system, not even within the same federation. Networking, being friends with the right people, standing out goes a long way. And that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of people that pop up at Worlds that aren't necessarily representative of the best in the world. So the culty aspect, paired with the fact that people don't want to stand out and put a target on their back, means that most people will just end up grinning and bear it. And when you're a pro athlete, literally world's strongest man, supposedly the pinnacle of the sport, and you show up to some other country with like your wife, your kids, a couple of friends, a support group, whatever, and they're making them pay for spectators tickets. And if you've ever been in person, I've been to a couple of them, they are not spectator events. They're not set up that way. It's a TV show. Then you add in the fact they were going to wait like 3 months to pay the athletes out. And I kind of throw in the fact that they're really lazy with releasing the events last minute, just because that's lazy. It's exploitative in kind of a negligent way. And it shows that they don't really give a shit about the athlete's health or even their ability to perform. Then you have representation, everybody's favorite buzzword in this non-controversial socio-political climate. Now, it's World's Strongest Man, so you would think you would want even representation from each country. Hey, the Olympics isn't that great? But the problem is this sport is not evenly developed and evenly popular across every continent and every country. It's becoming more and more so. But like I said, the World's Strongest Man was an American property, and amateur strongman in the United States was absolutely what drove the resurgence in strongman over the last 20 years. You had Strongman Corporation, which grew and grew and grew. Then US Strongman split off. Now you have literally hundreds, on the order of 300-400 amateur events in the United States every year. The Arnold started here, got traction, created all the Arnold splinter contests that split off around the world. OSG is held in the United States every year. So most of the talent is going to come from what you would consider Western countries. You got the United States, Canada, it's really big in England. Obviously, it's really big in Northern Europe. But it does look funny, and they've had years where it's been like this, where all of the talent is from like the United States, Canada, and the UK. Now, to get around that, they've always done some fuckery, which has always put a bad taste in my mouth. Piece of fuckery number one is trying to pressure athletes that hail from multicultural nations where they are almost certainly a mix of different ethnic ancestry to represent a country that they are not a citizen in and sometimes have never been to. For instance, Austin Andrade and Gabe Pena were both American, but both have been pressured into representing Mexico. Nick Camby, who's Italian and lives in Massachusetts, was made to represent Italy. Nick Gardione was propositioned the same way. I'm not going to wax philosophical about the possible ramifications of taking a contest, taking people from different parts of the world and treating nationality as actual ethnic origin. Western countries are heavily multicultural. It's in the bones. My wife is Hispanic because I'm from Southern California, which is overwhelmingly Hispanic, and there are more Hispanic women than any other demographic, which is why I married one. And I would just really like there to be an American identity that people embrace that accepts that, to where there isn't really a question like, yeah, I have Hispanic heritage, but I'm American, motherfucker. This experiment doesn't work any other way. Now, that's my own socio-political bugaboos. It's always kind of weird. If you're from another country, maybe one of the smaller nations in the Eastern Bloc, somewhere in Africa, somewhere in the Middle East, and you had a countryman who was born and raised right next to you, but they represented a country like 3 streets down because, I don't know, their great-grandmother hailed from that place and they needed to just shake it up with a little more diversity, that'd probably rub you the wrong way. I think representing citizenship makes sense. Representing race and ethnicity is a little weird. Now, piece of fuckery number 2 is that they'll go out of their way to invite shitty athletes just because they need people from different parts of the world. I remember there was a year they took somebody from South America who was by all accounts terrible. The year they had it in China, I think his name was it Guyan Li? He was 230 pounds, obviously not even remotely the strongest guy in China. China has some monster weightlifters. They just threw a guy that was kind of interested in strongman in there, and he just got mobbed. It was kind of an embarrassment. Now, of course, this isn't always the case. I mean, Mark Felix is from Grenada, but he's lived in the UK for most of his life. Now he represents the UK. Martins Lisis was born in Latvia, but he's lived in America most of his life. Now he represents America. It's just hearing the pressure. When I talked to Nick Gardione recently and Austin Andrade, they said they came to them with like the same type of proposition. Guys will make that flip because they know that's the difference of them getting that DEI spot or not. Oh, that's right, kids. You thought critical theory was just some obscure college ideology. Nope, it's coming for your strength sports. It's coming for your barbell sports. It's coming for your world records. But seriously, it's lame. If you want to go that route, just have qualifiers on each continent and make sure that that's how you get there. But they won't do that because they want the right to invent the best athletes who are disproportionately going to come from the places that I mentioned. The next dumb thing about World's Strongest Man is the events. The events are just fucking dumb. They're so stupid. I get so angry every time I watch the events, and I've been getting angry since about 2002. Let me tell you a little story, guys. I started paying attention to strongman in the early 2000s. My first contest was 2006. I was 19 years old. It was a weird thing to go to like California Strongest Man at Fresno State University as a middleweight in the era before anybody knew or cared what the fuck strongman was, and do something like a 280-pound farmer's walk for max distance, and then see them have a literal fucking foot race. Not max distance, not how far can you go, how long can you grind, a short foot race where everybody was separated by 0.3 seconds 16.2, 16.8, 15.9, because they had the strongest man in the world go 100 feet with 265 in each hand. That's actually what knocked Jesse Morunde out of the finals the year after he took second to Mariusz Pudzianowski. So it's always been light, and it's always been behind the rest of the sport, which has always pushed weight, always tried to make the athletes handle more and change the expectations for what it means to be an actual elite world-class strongman. In the era of Pudzianowski, you can see stone runs that ended with a 375 stone. You could see yoke walks that only went up to 880. And of course, you would have clean and press events that would result with something like double-digit reps for most of the field. I mean, I'm reminded of a log-cleated press event where Pudzianowski got like 13 reps or something because it was set at like 260. So as Bill Kazmaier famously said, you could strap a 5-pound plate to a sprinter's ankle and find the world's fastest strongman. But when you're actually chasing strength, it is a bit different. So there's a spirit of the sport involved. Now, obviously, World's Strongest Man has gotten heavier over the years. 5-stone series, usually with very high platforms having to carry the stoneaways. This year it ended with like a 462, and given the fact that they did have to carry it a little bit forward, it meant that, okay, that's not a super easy run. The stones actually look slick. I mean, Hooper didn't even get the last one, and boy, was he trying. I will say the weights have gotten heavier, and they're better at mixing max effort events with rep events. They're a bit better at picking appropriate weights. However, the plague of the dipshit medleys, the foot races, taking a strength event and turning it into a speed event is something that the World's Strongest Man cannot shake itself from. And that is one of the reasons that you are seeing really disparate performances from the guys that go to World's Strongest Man versus literally every other event. So to talk about this, we got to go over the World's Strongest Man event that just happened this weekend. We got to look at Rain O'Nell's performance, and I'm going to pick them apart. Look, if we're looking at the underdog team that happened to win the Super Bowl this year, everybody's going to be comparing stats. They're going to be shredding the team apart, looking at rushing yards, looking at interceptions, looking at total points scored, average points per game to figure out what happened. That's what sports is. In strongman, again, the weird culty shit pops up where people are going to call me a bad person because I'm peeing in Rain O'Nell's Cheerios, and we should just be so happy for him and jerk him off like everybody in the comments is doing. I'm sure Rain O'Nell is a swell guy. He did something very difficult that people are going to be talking about forever, but this is sport. He's a public figure, so I'm going to pick apart his performance, and you all can suck it. Guys, if you want to hit the holy trifecta of gains, the size, the strength, and of course the clout, you need a program that checks the biggest boxes. Not only does it use the best time-tested movements that you are actually likely to stick to and improve on, but it includes a logical progression that is based on my most popular programs. These are programs that have gotten rave reviews from people that literally just ran the template. BaseStrengthAI uses 3 of the most proven templates pulled from the principles of some of the biggest, strongest men in history that have been used for over a century. The workouts are fun, intuitive, there's a logical progression, but it does take it up a notch because it personalizes the workouts to you. As you get bigger, stronger, more advanced, it becomes harder to tick those numbers forward, and you can't get by not adjusting your workouts to your own particular tolerances. Now, most people get an online coach to take care of that for them to the tune of $200 to $300 a month, and the rest of the people just never figure it out to begin with. So if you're wondering why you start every training cycle super excited only to get several weeks in, feel brittle, overtrained, tired, disillusioned, like you're just a dodgeball and the program is the side of a building, then you need direction that updates your training minute to minute, day to day, week to week based on your immediate feedback. BaseStrengthAI takes the guesswork out of training, and it does what only an online coach can do, which is personalize the program to you at 1/10 of the cost. Yes, 1/10 of the cost. So jump on the heart and soul of old school training. It's my programming, but it is your program, and you cannot get that anywhere else. Hit up basestrength.com today to get started on your gains. If we look at the qualifying events, we take all 25 people and lump them in together. I checked to double check this. There were some people saying that some of the placings and points were a bit different, and there's a couple of reasons that might be. But in general, these placings aren't going to change very much, and we just need a 30,000 foot view of how this fits together. Very first event is the loading medley. Out of 25 people, you only had 2 not finish it, and those were people that blew their biceps out. Luke Richardson, Evan Singleton had to pull out. So looking all the way down, we have 38 seconds, 38 seconds, 38 seconds, 40, 41, 41, 42, 42, 42, 44, 44, 44, all the way down. In fact, the top 3 got 38 seconds. They were between 0.11 seconds from each other. That's like well within the margin of error. So let's put something into perspective. The deadlift, Trey Mitchell won out of everybody. He got 10 freaking reps with 775. Of course he did, because Trey Mitchell's a mutant with a back that looks like it was carved out of marble by Michelangelo himself. The next closest rep count was 8 reps. There were 3 guys that got 8 reps: Rain O'Neill, Tristan Hoth, and Patty Haynes. So Trey Mitchell got 25 points. Those 3 gents got 23. 2 points to go from 8 reps in a 3-way tie to 10 reps. Think about the strength, the performance. He's the only guy out of this field to be able to do that. And he's only rewarded with 2 more points than each of those 3 people. Where in the loading medley, the same spread from first to third place, which is 2 points, is 0.11 seconds. That's why people rail against light, fast medleys, because the reward for falling within this super precise surgical time frame where you make no mistakes, your feet just move just right, you picked it right, you didn't stop, you didn't bobble, it rewards you for things that ultimately has fuck all to do with the spirit of the sport. And that's not to say that speed should never be a part of this. It should, but you have to look at how much is it a theme of these types of events. You can look at the same thing with other one-off, what I call throwaway events. They're events that do not predict how you are going to do in other competitions. Throwing is a great example. Throwing is a throwaway event. It's one-off. It doesn't correlate with literally anything else. The best throw in the world isn't going to have a 1,000-pound deadlift. It's going to be some Highland Games athlete that pulls like 675 and is tall, built right, explosive, and highly technical. And the more of those types of events you have, it's going to skew what the finalists look like, what the top guys look like. Now, I will say that the finals actually had a pretty good spread. There was good spread in the deadlift, good spread in the overhead medley. Even the toss and the stones all had a good spread. So this is one example. But if we go into the finals, you see history repeating itself, where you start with a stupid, light, nonsense knack, carry, and hoist. I mean, they started doing this thing I just hate. They started pairing together random bullshit that has nothing to do with each other, having it sub-maximal, and having people just race from one to the other. We're going to have you do a yoke carry and then do 3 reps with a log. And then you're going to touch your toe 3 times, do 5 jumping jacks. Like, this is CrossFit bullshit. It's not creative. It's not more fun to watch, and it doesn't test anything concrete. I don't want to see medleys where each event is completely disparate and where there's no strain. It doesn't have anything to do with strongman. And again, we're looking at 30 seconds, 34, 35, 36, 37, very, very close times where a couple of seconds carries the same consequences as being outpulled by somebody by 100 pounds. So now we're getting into Rain O'Nell's performance. Event 1 of the finals, the carry and hoist. He got 30 seconds. He won this event. If we look at the Flintstone barbell behind the neck, you have Rain O'Nell doing a 188 kilogram behind the neck jerk. And for those of you that haven't been paying attention, your potential to go behind the neck is absolutely huge, especially if you trained it. If you got guys like Kokolaev that have clean and jerked 550 in competition, he did 600 behind the neck in an exhibition. Luke Hatton did 600, and he's probably in like the low 500s for a push press or for a push jerk. So the fact that he did 414 behind the neck off blocks, his best log is like 375. And in doing this really unimpressive, I mean, there's middleweights that can do this. There's amateurs that can do this. There's female Olympic lifters that could do this. This is the number he put up at the World's Strongest Man, and this put him 4.5 points behind Mitch Hooper in this event, who did a 506. So in the overhead press, a 4.5 point spread took nearly 100 pounds. However, if you look at the bullshit carry and hoist medley, Rain O'Nell winning with 30 seconds and change. To go 5 points down, you get to Eddie Joe Williams, who is 7.5 seconds slower. So less than 8 seconds is equivalent in points reward to 100 pounds on the overhead press. Guys, something is fucking wrong with that. Now, I am getting Pujanowski vibes from Reno because he's good at certain things that set him up well for the sport overall, although his static strength doesn't seem to be where it needs to be for the heavier shows. What I mean by that, the best log we have on record is at 375. I doubt he could put 400 pounds overhead from the front, given his Flintstone barbell performance. However, he did like 330 on a log, clean and press each rep, 150 kilograms for like 7, which it's good. It's not competitive. However, when you get to the bigger shows, it's not going to be a 330 log for 7. It's going to be a 380 log for reps, which is above his max so far. And the best deadlift I can find for him is a suited 402.5 kilogram, on the order of 890 pounds. That did not look easy. It stuck pretty hard around his knee, and he had a quick lockout. He's very strong above the knee, as is evidenced by his 490 kilo 18-inch deadlift. Don't get me started on 18-inch deadlifts, guys. It's the sumo of fucking strongman. But again, his reps are really good. 775 for 8. He was at the top of the deadlift for reps. Again, I'm eager to see what happens when you put him at the Arnold, when you put him at the Rogue Invitational, when you put him at the Shaw Classic, where everything is heavy and then you have to rep it out. Because the deadlift isn't going to be 775, it's going to be 875. And you're going to get a very different result unless he improves his top end. So in picking apart Reno, I'm not trying to shit on his parade or say Reno sucks. He's obviously very strong, very good athlete, and he did something incredible people are going to be talking about for a very long time. But can you predict how he is going to do based off of these events? Absolutely you can. Does it bode well for him at the other shows that are gaining popularity and that are distinctly different from Worlds? No, I don't think it does. And at this point, I should point out, this is a lot of inside baseball shit. This is people that spend too much time obsessing over this stuff, really trying to pick things apart at a granular level. It's important if you want to be able to say anything about the sport with certainty, but to the average person watching, it's still a good, interesting contest. I mean, there's no real foul play. This is just conceptual problems with the structure and again, how it relates to the spirit of the sport as a whole. My personal guess with Reno is that he's going to get excited, start doing bigger contests that are outside of his wheelhouse, and he's going to get chewed up. Is it possible that he levels up and puts 50 pounds on each of his lifts to the point where he can now hang with the best guys? Yeah, it's possible, but everybody makes that fallacy by seeing somebody who's new on the scene, who is incredibly strong, and say, oh my God, they have so much potential. What could they do next? Everybody thought Larry Wheels would have like a 3,000 pound total by now. Even I was on that bandwagon. He's stronger than Pooj, 40 pounds lighter. He's going to be the next great thing. I got into an argument with Terry Hollins about it, and he tore his bicep, took his ball, and went home. So it looks like Terry's winning that one. Same thing with Mitch. Mitch's biggest deadlift ever was a few years ago. And now he's talking about chasing 1100 in the midst of training for all of these different things. It's fallacious to believe that because you came so far so fast that progress continues. There isn't infinite growth potential, right? It stops somewhere. And the thing you know about elite strength athletes is they have no fucking idea where it's going to stop or why it's going to stop. He could very well continue to get stronger, but the thing is he has to if he wants to hang. He can't hang based off his current performance. And there's no reason to think he's going to do that because now the competitive season is much more taxing. Fatigue is going to climb exponentially. Risk of injury is going to climb exponentially. So, I hope the best for him. Now, I understand that the events, it's a little more subjective. I think I made a pretty good case for why the events are bad based on which events get how much weight, how important it is to be a few seconds faster versus legitimately being 100 pounds stronger than your opponent. But we can get into something a little bit more concrete. The scoring in the heats are just next level retarded. The heats have always been part of World's Strongest Man, and it made a lot of sense as a TV show. It made a ton of sense as a TV show because you have these separate little events, 30 minutes long, 5 or 6 guys. You follow them, you watch a couple. Hey, we got the final. So it builds up, makes perfect sense. However, heats guarantee that you are going to get not the best performers. It's mathematically guaranteed because chance determines that some groups will have 3 or 4 of the top guys, so guys will arbitrarily get knocked out, and other groups will have bottom tier guys where people sneak in that maybe otherwise shouldn't have. Now, it wasn't quite as bad when all the events were different. It kind of hid that selection process, but now you had 25 guys in a bunch of different heats doing the exact same thing. Well, if you have one contest on one day where 25 guys all do these same events that are mathematically calculated using objective numbers, how would you take the top 10? Every logical person in the entire world would say, score them together, take the top 10. Well, by grouping people into heats just for the TVs, it guarantees that problem is going to occur, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I made this post on Instagram that calculated everybody together, and a few people have done this. These scores I checked and double checked, but some people said they got different results. However, they don't vary that much. The main idea is the same. I have Tristan Hoth taking 8th overall, Lucas Hatton taking 10th. Somebody said they had Maxime taking 10th, either way. And they got knocked out. And Lucas Hatton was, for a lot of people, a favorite of the show. In was Pavlo Cordiaca, who I had at 13th, and Eddie Joe Williams, who I had at 17th. To the surprise of nobody, they both placed towards the bottom. Now, they did this for a couple of reasons. They have to keep the heats for TV because they're not creative enough to figure out how to make it interesting in a TV format without using the heat system. So they lean on that. But they decided to pull the veil off and have everybody do the same event because they wanted to assign scores at the start of the finals. And you're going to find that how they randomly decide how the points work has huge implications for how the finals play out. They've never done this before. So you had Hooper starting in first place with 10 points, all the way down 9, 8, 7 with the guy who placed last with 1 point. So follow this. You had 25 guys competing in heats. You took the top 2 from each one, and then you scored them together, removing everybody else, comparing their results to each other. Then you assign points for that as if the entire qualifier was one event, and then you had them do the finals. Now, if you take that away, it didn't seem to affect the podium at all, but it very, very easily could. And it's just another example of how convoluted and unintuitive and nonsensical the point system can be, and how much the final results hinge entirely on how people decide to engineer the points. Now, the last thing I'm going to point out is directly tied to the problem with the heats, and that is the World's Strongest Man is stuck in decades past, and they seem to have a pretty widespread, I'm going to call it overestimation, about their relevance and their stance. I think they're all kind of drinking the Kool-Aid because they're the TV show and they're the original and they're the big player. And they're called the World's Strongest Man, which as far as branding, I think is keeping them alive because people hear World's Strongest Man, they think of the history, and they automatically think biggest, most important show. When in reality, if World's Strongest Man didn't air next year, Strongman would be completely unaffected because they are hyper corporate and their entire model is based around television, which is a dying medium. Broadcasting cable is, oh my God, it's just dying so much. They refuse to embrace what every other strongman organization has done and utilize the fan base that grew, that exists, that is predominantly online. So they do this bullshit thing where they're stringing along people with like written Instagram updates. You're getting little clips of people filming and then they'll post half of an event on their Instagram, but you can't follow any type of stream because they're not going to patch it together and air it until, I don't know, they still do Christmas. They're going to air the World's Strongest Man months from now. Everybody knows the results. There's no interest. There's no care. And their argument is that, well, we're the TV guys. We get the broad audience. Diehards watch live streams. We get the broad audience. And that is insanely delusional and insanely backwards. Let me take you on a little trip back through time. World's Strongest Man started to gain popularity as amateur strongman was growing. Basically, when CrossFit was growing, it directed a lot of people towards a barbell who would otherwise never have found the barbell. And those people ended up getting into powerlifting and strongman very heavily. So amateur strongman started to grow hugely from when I first started. So from 2006 to like 2008-9, there were just more contests. Nationals was getting bigger and bigger. More people were following World's Strongest Man on TV. And then you get to, I want to say 2010 is when they had the Arnold Amateur World Championship. So now the Arnold is cruising, Z's in his prime, Derek Poundstone's still around. You have Thor winning the Arnold Amateur Strongman and just contributing to this huge upswell. Brian Shaw's coming into his prime, and then more and more stuff is happening on YouTube. Social media is driving everything. At this point in time, World's Strongest Man was actually trying to ban athletes from telling anybody else what the events were. They were trying to prevent them from giving away the event secrets on social media, let alone posting updates, let alone filming. And everybody revolted. All the strongman fans thought it was the dumbest, worst thing in the world, and I agreed. Don't get me started on how when Brian Shaw tried to do that, everybody thought, oh, well, you got to support him by the live stream, bro. When World's Strongest Man did it was different. I don't know. Don't get me started on that. Fickle bunch, these strongmen. But that trend has only persisted up until the present, with World's Strongest Man constantly being behind, and they continuously make concessions. They continuously behave reactively. So what does Rogue do? They air the stream on YouTube. What does Shaw do? I think he has a paid subscription, and then very shortly after, he airs the stream on YouTube. And all of those major events just rack up crazy amounts of views. Giants Live has a massive YouTube channel. You have literally 60 million, 50 million, 40 million views of like Mark Felix doing a Hercules hold. I know it's a one-off event, but people love it, which is why they keep throwing it in there. You have the full stream, but you also have the chopped events, you have individual events, you have commentary and reaction. So you have this entire ecosystem that drives ad revenue, both to the people watching that specific contest, but also all of the people that are getting exposed to commentary and opinions and reactions in this ecosystem that only exists online. When you do not have World's Strongest Man streamed online, that is all diluted heavily. Right now, there is a big I don't give a fuck. You have diehard channels that are commenting, getting very few views. You have people trying to stay engaged on Instagram, but it's very weak. It sucks. And there's no real reason for it. So when I say that they're kind of diluted, they kind of have bought into the Kool-Aid that there's something special about their role on television and that only diehards exist online. Look at this back and forth I had with Terry Hollins. Terry dropped in and responded to my bitching about the heats. And as a guy who I think got handled by the heats a lot, who probably felt like, hey, I could do good in the finals, but getting through the heats is a bitch towards the end of his career. I think he was a bit sympathetic, but he's heavily involved with World's Strongest Man now. And he came in and said, I can understand where you're coming from, but if you want the general public to know about our sport, it has to be interesting for TV. I know I benefited a lot with sponsorships, fame, and in turn financially because of the exposure I got. I think all the big shows are great, but without the TV, only the diehard fans know about our sport and would eventually lose new fans coming to the sport. It's not ideal for a couple of guys, maybe lose out, but for the good of the sport as a whole, the TV helps. And I've always liked Terry. Terry reminds me of, like, I don't know, the UK's answer to Zydrunas. It's very kind of stone-faced and stoic, like a no BS kind of guy, has that working class vibe. And he's built like, and I know I use this analogy a lot, like one of the elite from Halo. Like I walked by him at OSG, like right after he did his cut and got all lean and jacked. And the guy has like an imposing fucking frame, more so than you would think, considering he's not 6'8", but he's he's a fucking unit, that guy. He looks like he should be an extra in like a Guy Ritchie film. Anyways, I respond, Terry, I appreciate the response, I really do, and I don't doubt the World's Strongest Man exposure was integral, but a lot has changed in the last few years, so I'm skeptical. Strongman is well past grow the sport stage, and I think it has been for a while. It grew, and that's from Shaw, Hall, Thor, etc., collaborating online and making strongman an integral part of fitness culture as a whole. More kids are lifting now than ever, and if they lift weights, they know who these people are. A few quick stats to justify my belligerence. YouTube had 1.25 billion users in 2014, your last World's Strongest Man finals. Now it's at 2.85 billion, more than double. Since 2023, streaming has taken over broadcasting cable as a preferred way to consume TV content. This doesn't mean streaming on your phone or computer. This means people streaming on their effing TV. Cable and broadcast is dying, folks. In 2015, 76% of Americans had cable subscriptions. Now it's 46% and declining around 5% year over year, with similar trends in other Western nations. Again, legacy media is on its way out. In 2023, the World's Strongest Man drew in 578,000 views for Worlds on CBS Sports in the US and 1.5 million in the UK on Channel 5. Combined, that's on par with one Brian Shaw arm wrestling collaboration. So my point is, it's not diehards online. Everyone is online. The number of general strongman views YouTube gets compared to TV views when World's Strongest Man premieres isn't 10 to 1. It's probably closer to 100 to 1. Now, Terry responded. He said, I'm not disputing that the world has changed around media, and I agree some changes need to come, but the Arnold was getting 45,000 live views when it was on YouTube. World's Strongest Man gets 2 million on TV in the UK alone. I know for paid live streams, the numbers are way below that 45,000. Our sport is not as big as we think to people outside the sport. Now, this is where I kind of get the overestimating your presence and looking at incorrect figures. Terry was citing live views on the Arnold airing on YouTube, comparing to live views on TV. That's different because live views on TV are the only views you get on TV. Where YouTube, you can watch it live, you can watch it 5 minutes later, you can watch it next week, and it continues to rack up views. It is permanent syndication. The only thing that matters if you are trying to get more people engaged and if you're trying to get sponsorship dollars is total views. So live views don't mean a damn thing. All you have to do is go online and look at all of the live stream clips and videos that Rogue put out. It's combined about 3 million total for all of the events at the Arnold between the men and women. And considering how long the average video is, I wouldn't be surprised if the YouTube ad revenue alone was approaching on 6 figures. Now, Rogue could absolutely optimize their reach to do more than they are. They don't clip their events into very small segments. They don't edit them. If you look at something like Giants Live, which is amazing at doing this, then you see what is actually driving engagement with Strongman. Again, 60 million, 50 million, 40 million views of single events that are selected for some specific interesting thing that pops up on a random person's feed. They click on it like, oh my God, that's incredible. What is that? World's Strongest Man compilations get a shit ton of views on YouTube. Brian Shaw not only was able to charge people for a live stream, but he got combined 5 million on the order of total views when he finally put the stream footage online. And this was relatively unedited, not chopped and segmented. But it's not just the live views. It's what happens when somebody watches it. When you're on YouTube and you see something like this, it then continues to pop up in your feed. You're exposed to it again and again and again. You're exposed to the people reacting to it. You're exposed to people making the compilation videos. You're exposed to people commenting on it and filling you in on the finer points of what went on. Absolutely none of that happens on TV. And again, in the two biggest markets for strongman, the United States and the UK, you are getting combined barely 2 million views. I know Terry said he got 2 million views in the UK, but the source I found said 1.5. Now, World's Strongest Man pulls some fuckery and says that they get 220 million views worldwide. Now, given the kind of paltry views on the premiere, I have a hard time believing those numbers aren't fudged or embellished, or that they're not just referring to other World's Strongest Man from years past that are on kind of a permanent playlist that pop up at different times during the day on like third-rate networks. And these are often networks that get most of their views not from households. They get a lot of views from bars that they're playing in. I've seen them playing in restaurants. They'll play in casinos. A lot of it is stuff to be on that's just on. The fact is, World's Strongest Man has been behind for the last 20 years. They've not been leading. The growth, if World's Strongest Man has seen any, has come from the fact that more people have been competing at the amateur level. The amateur organizations have exploded. They've created more opportunities with nationals, with international bodies, with the amateur Arnold World Championships, with all of the splinter factions, making it more accessible and more popular. All of those people drive excitement and views. They make content. They end up aligning with general fitness content, which itself has blown up because of social media. So then when you have the biggest guys in the world, Shaw, Eddie Hall, Thor, committing their life to YouTube and to social media, now you have collaborations. So they're doing shit regularly with the biggest faces in the world, expanding their reach. So now you're at the point where Brian Shaw himself commands an audience and reach. And the amount of reach that these guys get is absolutely insane. If they're active with their channels, these guys are getting tens of millions of views per month. And every time they collaborate, it spreads. Every time they promote something, every time Eddie Hall does a stupid fight, it spreads. These guys are the jet engine that is driving strongman forward and making it a household institution. The bottom line is strongman had the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s to absolutely explode because it was aired every year around the same time, but it didn't. It stayed niche. It didn't explode until there were characters that had a platform, a tool like social media in order to make it interesting. And the only way you're going to perpetuate it further is if you lean into those characters. You need to have the heirs to Shaw, Thor, and Hall. The only way the sport grows is by leaning into the personality types, because I'm telling you guys, strongman by itself is not quite as interesting to a general population. To lead it, to continue to grow, to pull new people in, you need the personalities in addition to the freakish feats. So that is my long rant. My voice is hoarse from yelling about everything dumb with World's Strongest Man. At this point, the contest is easily the bottom four in terms of relevance in determining who the best strongman is. And I think we're going to see that when Reno steps into some of these bigger contests. But you know what? Who knows? The guy could be a gamer. He could level up. He could just be getting started, and I could put my foot in my mouth this time next year. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment in the comments, leave your opinion, tell me what you think. I'll probably drop in to write War and Peace as to why you're wrong. If you're listening to this in podcast format, what are you doing? Go to my YouTube page. That's where all the good stuff is. Leave a comment. Thanks so much for dropping by, guys. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you. Hey, did you like that? Well, this oopsie daisy is going to cost me a mountain in medical bills and growth hormone, peptides. It's getting real expensive. But instead of starting to go fund me like a pussy, I'm raising funds the honorable way with merch and training programs. So support old Gare by getting one of these sick tees. And then go to BaseStrength.com to get the BaseStrength AI app. That one's not even for me. I mean, I can see you from here. That's a favor for yourself. But seriously, it's for me. I'm going to need you to download that app. Send it around. Give it to your mailman for Christmas. Later, nerd.